Hello and good afternoon, California. How are you? We're so excited to have so many people joining us this afternoon. I hope that you all were able to get your Uber Eats and that you're having a lunch while you join us in the webinar today. I do believe if you didn't get to use it, I know things can get crazy in the office. If you didn't get to use it, I do believe it's good through this afternoon, so you can always order a late lunch if needed. I know we've got a few people still logging on, so I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping, and maybe as I'm talking, if people want to chime in the questions box what they ordered for lunch, and we can see some of the different things that people were able to get with their Uber Eats certificate. I know here we have sandwich day here in our office, so everyone's getting some boulanger meats and cheeses. So that's our lunch today. For a lot of California, I think it's a good soup day. Looks like we've got a burger and fries. Oh, we do have a soup there. So some people are getting use of that Uber Eats. That's great. I'm glad to see that. As we get started, again, a little housekeeping before I start our presentation. At the end of this presentation, we will be hopefully today, if not today, tomorrow morning, either myself or my colleague Janessa will be emailing you with the shroom credits. So this lunch and learn is worth 1 shroom credit. So that's not only are you getting lunch, you're getting some credits for those of you that need it. Also, if you have any questions today, I will do my best to check that questions box. I am a solo show, so I can't always see them or address them, but that question does get saved, so I can certainly follow up with you at the end of this presentation. And also, if you want more information about what we're talking about, you can certainly follow up with me or Janessa with when we send you the shroom credits. And we will also send a recording of this. So if you want to share it with any of your colleagues, it will be available for sharing amongst your office. So real quick, today we are talking about California nonprofits and unemployment. Before I get started, I do want to do a quick introduction of myself. My name is Heidi Posada, and I am the Member Recruitment Manager here at 501c Services. And I've been here about 13 years, so I looked over the list of people attending. We've got quite a few nonprofits, a lot of new names, but also some returning, so that's great. It's great to see some people coming back, maybe a refresher, learn a little bit more. Maybe you're just here for the lunch. Whatever your motivation, we are very happy to have you joining us today, and hopefully you'll get an opportunity to learn a little bit through this presentation. A little bit about myself. I started in nonprofit management right out of college. I was with the El Camino YMCA in Mountain View, California. And from there, I went to the Southwest YMCA in Saratoga, and where I was Associate Executive Director. And from there, I went to the American Cancer Society for about 5 years. And in all those jobs, I was raising money, helping nonprofits figure out how to raise a little bit more money, whether it was through gala, capital campaign, you name it, we were raising money. Now in this new role, I'm very happy to be able to be saving nonprofits money. So if you can shave a little bit off your expenses, you're helping those people over running galas. A little less money, a little less pressure on them if you can reduce those expenses. So that's really what we're here for. So help you learn how to manage your unemployment in the most cost-effective way, and also talk about some services to help save some time. I like to introduce Hunter the dog. That's my dog. I'm actually in the office today, so he will not be making an appearance, but if we do some follow-up, you might get to meet him if I'm working from home. And we are located in San Jose, California, so you can see the office here. We might not be celebrating like this year, but we're a lot of California. Sorry if you're Southern California, and but a lot of Warriors fans, a lot of fun. So if you do end up working with us, this is this Warriors group is the team that you'd be working with. So just to cover the agenda, hopefully we're all on the same page for why you are here. First thing I'm going to do is just a really broad overview of unemployment, how unemployment insurance works. Hopefully you don't think you're here for a 401k or workers' comp. Today, I know a lot of times I'm talking to people and they see our name and they think 401k, 501c. But today we're talking about how unemployment insurance works. Then I'm going to talk a little bit, hopefully everyone here today is a 501c3. So we're going to be talking about some alternatives that you have as a nonprofit when it comes to unemployment, and then focusing really on the option of reimbursing and how that works. And then I'm going to use some real life examples of how some organizations have benefited through our analysis. And then finally, I will talk a little bit about 501c services and why nearly 400 California nonprofits are using our services to help them manage unemployment. So let's get started. A little bit of unemployment explained. First off, unemployment started in the US in the 1930s. So gosh, almost can't believe we're looking at a century ago. But during the New Deal, during the Depression, the federal government did start to realize that a safety net for people who lost their jobs on no fault of their own should have some sort of safety net. So unemployment benefits started in the US. From 1930 until 1972, 501c3 organizations did not pay into unemployment. So you, especially if you're the CFO or someone managing expenses, that's great. Yay, you're not having to pay that expense, you're not having to pay that tax. But if you're that person that gets laid off, no fault of your own, downturn in the economy for whatever cause, unfortunately, up until 1972, employees of nonprofits did not benefit, were not eligible for unemployment benefits. So fast forward to 1972, just over 50 years ago, 501c3, the federal government, part of the 1972 Social Security Act, so this is a federal law, did change it. So nonprofits did have to pay into the unemployment, and but they did not have to, but they had options. The federal government did not want the tax to be an unnecessary expense, so they gave options for the nonprofits. So a little bit about state unemployment insurance explained. First, unemployment is it's overseen at the federal level. So that's why the 1972 Social Security Act, the New Deal, all those, that's why they do apply to at the federal level. But each state gets to manage it how they want. So we see all different kinds of ways that rates are calculated, but today we're going to focus primarily on California. So hopefully you are representing a California nonprofit. If not, a lot of the information will still apply to your organization. But when it comes to managing unemployment, rates can be adjusted annually each year, and they are adjusted by experience. Here in California, I actually think they sent rate notices pretty early. The date on the notice says December 31st, but I actually think they came in November this year based on some interactions I've had with some folks. So the rates can be adjusted. It's adjusted by, kind of like your car insurance. If you have a bad year of experience, that rate's going to go up. And every state in California, including California, the state program is run as a pool. It's a risk pool. So what you put in does not necessarily equate to what you get out. A lot of nonprofits are putting more money into that pool than they're getting out. And here in California, where the reserves are technically used in time of recession. However, we are still owing the federal government. I think we're not even sure if we got paid back from the 2010 recession. But now we're still paying back for the COVID relief fund. So those reserves in theory are for recession, but we're still paying those back from COVID. And the way the tax is calculated is by taxable wage base times your employer rate. So some of that you have a little bit control over if you're paying state unemployment insurance, but not entirely. So quick quiz for you. Take a guess what the maximum single claim can cost in California. Again, oh, I saw a poke bowl come up too to add to our lunches. But what do you think a single claim in California can cost? And I'll give you a minute if you want to write it in on the questions section. And this is just, you know, it's basically the total cost is looking at the weekly benefit maximum times the number of weeks maximum that someone can claim. So I've got an 18,000, I've got a 10,500 guess, 26,000. Let's see, I've got a 22,000. We should play high or low. I wish we could have done this a little more interactive. Higher or lower than, got a 17,000. Okay, I'm gonna drum roll, please. The actual answer is, is $11,700. So, oh, I got a 23,400. But the maximum a person can claim in unemployment in California is $11,700. Now, I do want to put the caveat: this is what an employer is charged for an employee benefits. A lot of us might remember the 2010 recession when there was extended benefits that lasted, I think, up to a year. Those costs were covered by the federal government. And also we had, of course, the COVID claims where there was the extra $600 per week. So some of those 23, 25 might actually be low if you factor in those COVID claims. But what we're asking right here is actually what the state would charge, what part of that comes out of the state unemployment and is more regular expenses outside of that recession, extended benefits, and COVID benefits. So how do we come up with that total? A look at California review. Oops, it's January. This is all of this still applies for 2024. So the maximum weekly benefit amount in California is $450. And when we take that and multiply it by 26, that's how we get that 11,000 plus number for maximum weekly benefit amount or maximum that a person could claim on unemployment. That 26 weeks does not have to be consecutive. So someone might claim for a month and then find employment and then find themselves unemployed again and be able to reopen a claim. So sometimes that 26 week benefit you can be seeing on your invoices from the state or statements from the state for well over a year, sometimes even 2 years. One of the things the federal government does set is the wage-based minimum at $7,000. They do not have a maximum. So California, it's actually kind of surprising. California is the lowest taxable wage base at $7,000. So that means for the first $7,000 an employee earns, you're taxed on that. So for the vast majority of employers in California, you're paying most of your taxes the first quarter. So any employee that earns that $7,000 in Q1, you're taxed on that. So really the only taxes you pay after the first quarter when it comes to unemployment will be if you have seasonal employees, if you have new hires, or part-time employees that earn less than $7,000 in the first quarter. And the minimum tax rate here in California is 1.6%, and the maximum is 6.2%. And those are both set by the state. And there is also a 0.1% education fund that is added to all tax rates unless you have the max rate at 6.2%. That's the maximum it goes. And then the last thing is the improper payment rate, which is almost 20%. And what does that mean? What does that mean for you as an employer if you're paying into the state, actually if you're paying state unemployment insurance or if you're reimbursing? That 20% overpayment is equivalent or equates to almost $2 billion in overpayments to former employees who are collecting unemployment. This is information that we get straight from the Department of Labor. And you can see California is one of many states that's greater than 13%, but we're edging close to 20%. The reason why this is important to know is we really encourage you as an employer, if you're not already using someone to help you manage your claims, to really look at the claims that you receive, look over the dollar amount, and make sure that you're not overpaying for anybody's claims. Here at 501, we do help organizations monitor that, but on your own, you might also be able to make sure that you're properly charged for a former employee's weekly benefit amount. And then we look at the possible impact of COVID claims on the SUI pool. It's still a little bit to be determined. A lot of states are really putting the brakes on making too many changes too fast. A lot of states wrote off the 2020-2021 claims, but eventually they're going to have to catch up and figure out how to replenish the pool. So on average, and this is just an average year with no unexpected unemployment, an organization typically pays in $1.28 for every dollar they take out of the pool. And that's how the state is building the pool for years of higher unemployment. During the 2010 recession, that average exceeded $2. So organizations, in order to replenish that pool, were paying $2 in for every dollar they were averaging out. California still hasn't changed anything as of yet to start paying back the debt that they owe. California right now owes more for that debt than all other states combined. So we have a really low taxable wage base, fairly low tax rates. It's likely that eventually they're going to have to make some changes to fill in that to replenish that pool. But for right now, there haven't been significant changes except for tax rates. You may have seen increases in tax rates based on socialized costs, and I'll get to that towards the end of this presentation, how they do that. So 501c3 alternatives, again, we've talked a lot about paying the tax. It's the tax rate that's set by the state and the taxable wages. Another option you have as a nonprofit is to self-fund your unemployment. You can pay dollar for dollar for your unemployment claims. And then you can do kind of a hybrid of the two options. You can say, hey, I want to get the savings that's going to come by reimbursing, but I also want a little safety net. So I'm going to buy insurance. So those are really the three main options that you have when it comes to managing unemployment. So how does reimbursing work? First of all, you do have to be a 501c3 nonprofit. I know there's other 501c6, 501c, whatever. You have to be a 501c3 nonprofit, which I'm pretty sure all of you on this call are. We tried to check it over, so hopefully you're all 501c3s. And it does exclude religious institutions. So at times we do come across maybe a Volunteers of America or Catholic Charities that's aligned closely enough with the religious institution that even though they're a 501c3, they still are excluded from having to pay SUI. But that's kind of an exception, not the norm. So, but any church, synagogue, they are all exempt from unemployment, and therefore their employees don't benefit from unemployment. We also typically say a gross annual payroll of over $1 million. And why do we say that? Well, if your payroll is less than $1 million, especially significantly less than $1 million, what you're paying into the state tax pool is probably pretty minimal, and you're probably not going to see a significant savings by opting out. With that said, I'm happy to look at anyone's numbers. So if you are slightly less than $1 million, we can sure look at the numbers and see, especially if you have a lot of seasonal staff, which kind of drives up your taxable wages. You might end up having a good scenario of savings, even a little less than $1 million payroll. Also, we usually say a positive audit of the past 3 years, meaning the last 3 years you've paid more into the pool than you've paid out in claims. Well, 2020, 2021 might impact that a little bit, even 2022 coming out of the pandemic. So in the ideal world, you'd have positive over the last 3 years. But again, we look for anomalies and make sure that that claims that exceeded what you paid in taxes is not potentially an anomaly. And also, if you are currently paying state unemployment insurance and you think you might have a significant layoff or reduction in force, this might not be the time to evaluate reimbursing. And the reason for that is because we want you to keep that positive audit in moving forward. Excuse me. So how reimbursing works, first of all, your tax rate essentially turns to 0%. Isn't that great? And the state will bill your organization only for the unemployment claims that you receive over the quarter for the billing. So I mean, the easiest way to say it, you have 0% taxes, and you are now just paying for your unemployment claims. And so a lot of people are like, oh gosh, now am I managing paying out employees? How does that work? The process is completely seamless for separated employees. The employee will still file their claim with EDD. EDD will still determine the weekly benefit amount. You as an organization still have the option to protest that claim. You still respond to the claim as it comes in. So it's very seamless. It's just, once you're set up, it's just a change in how the bill is calculated, how that quarterly bill is calculated. And the real benefit is, instead of paying the state unemployment insurance, you're responsible for the charges that your organization incurs. So you're not paying, if you're one of those organizations that paying $1.28 all the way up to $2 into that pool for every dollar you're getting back. Now you're just paying $1 in for every dollar you take out. So we work with about 1,500 nonprofits currently right now, 400 in California. What's their motivation? What's the benefit? Why are they reimbursing? Well, in most cases, it does save money. We do cost analysis all the time, and we've done a analysis of our analysis, and on average, the savings is usually about 20 to 40% compared to what an organization is paying in state unemployment. It also allowed you to avoid any tax hikes. If California does decide to change their taxable wages, you avoid that, but you also avoid any tax rate hikes that might come that you don't have any control over. So really what we look at it, and when I was really big into the fundraising, we were always looking at being a better steward of donor dollars. And that's really what our goal here is for nonprofits, is to be a better steward of the funds, so that you're not overpaying taxes and reducing those expenses. So who can use this? I know a lot of organizations right now, even if you're a California organization, especially since the pandemic, a lot of people have remote employees. Here at 501, we have a handful of employees out of state. So the good thing to know is if you wanted to evaluate reimbursing, it's available in all 50 states, DC too, and fun fact, Puerto Rico as well. So, and probably Guam. But so if you do have employees in any states and you want to evaluate if reimbursing is a good option to use, we can, it's available in all 50 states. And again, we suggest $1 million payroll or more, or 15 full-time employees. So how reimbursing works, so you can use a couple different strategies if you are currently reimbursing or considering moving to reimbursing from the state unemployment. The first is you are allowed to manage your own program. We of course don't necessarily recommend that, especially the first couple years. And if you did manage your own program, we would certainly suggest that you set aside budget dollars to manage the highs and lows of unemployment, and also make sure that you have staff qualified to protest claims and to audit those claims. Because again, now that you're paying dollar for every claim, we don't want to see organizations overpaying if the state overpays a former employee, or if there's a claim that you protest and lose in protest that could cost you over $11,000 if you lose that unnecessarily. Just you know, we know HR departments are really busy, so doing it on their own, they might let something slip through the cracks, but it is something you are allowed to do, and I know that some nonprofits do manage it on their own. Another option is to outsource. You can join an organization like us, 501c Agencies Trusts, and we will help take a lot of that administrative work off of your plate and help you reduce the chance of unnecessary costs when it comes to unemployment through management of claims. And then a third option, and this is also something we can help you with, is you can purchase insurance. Which purchasing insurance looks a lot like the state pool. You know, you can be fully insured no matter what your claims are, and so that is another option. I really like to look at the outsourcing as the perfect middle between reimbursing on your own, where you're taking on a lot of the risk that comes with reimbursing as far as overpaying through audit, through not through an inability to fully audit, maybe managing claims, and also the overpayment into the state. So that's why a lot of organizations do choose to use 501c Agencies Trust to manage their unemployment once they become a reimbursing employer. So I talked about the 20 to 40% savings. I do want to talk briefly about I've already talked about this a little bit, but I'll talk again about how the SUI is calculated, and then show you some real samples from some of those cost assessments that we've done in the past. So the first is taxable wages are set by each state. We've already covered that California is at the federal minimum, which is $7,000, and tax rates are set mostly based on experience, but I will also show you how California can kind of inflate a tax rate. So what you're basically, when you take that $7,000 taxable wage base times the tax range of 1.6 to 6.2% per employee, assuming they make $7,000 a year, you're paying anywhere from $112 to $434 per employee each year for the unemployment tax. So what we do for, at least to get the ball rolling for an assessment, is we do look at, or it's super helpful anyway, if we can look at the EDD tax rate notice that was, again, it says December 31st on it, but I think you may have received this even mid-November, early November. I was talking to people that had already received it. But the key points to look at in this, first, the tax rate, 1.7%. That middle one that's not highlighted, I do like to point out, is that's an F+, and that is the tax table that California is currently in. A lot of people look at that and they think it's an indication of their own performance, but this is the, what says right here, the UI rate schedule, which is the lowest it could be, which is because California has significant funds. And so what that, owes significant funds to the federal government. So what the F+ rating means is that they can increase your tax rate higher than it would be if we were in a different tax rate schedule. So this one is 1.7, so a pretty low tax rate here, but it's probably inflated a little because of that, the pool being so depleted. And then again, everybody, unless your tax rate is already 6.2%, everybody is also added a 0.1% for the ETT, the employment training. So some other numbers here that are not highlighted is you can look at your current balance. This organization had a $178,000 balance. That means through the course of their history, and so, to some degree, they've overpaid almost $200,000 into the state. There's different times that the state takes more money than necessary, but basically this organization has paid almost $200,000 over. In this particular year, you can see line item number 2, they paid $22,000 in unemployment in 2020. I'm sorry, from 2017 to 18, that's line item 2. And then line item 9, they paid only $1,200 in claims. So they paid over $20,000 more into the pool than they took out. And so that's really what we want to do, is help you look at the numbers like this and see, is there a potential $20,000 savings sitting within your organization? And a couple other samples that we've done in real life in the past and recent history, showing some overpayments. This organization had a taxable payroll of just shy of $1 million, a tax rate of 4.7%, estimated annual claims only $200. And in this case, we did a 3-year average of claims. So over 3 years, they only averaged $200 a year. And so in this case, they were overpaying by $45,000 each year. So think of what you could do with an extra $45,000. And I'm going to go back to the tax rate notice real quick and point out, hopefully you can see this clearly on your screen, but line item 11 is benefit overpayment established, and 12 is UI benefits not charged to reserve account. These are 2 what we call socialized costs. So even though this organization only had $1,200 in claims, they were added another $7,000 in claims to take away from their total balance. So what that does effectively is increase their tax rate, because they've actually said they've had more claims than they did in reality. So we call it the socialized cost, the way to get that pool paid back. And what that's led to in part is having this organization pay $20,000 more into the pool than they got out. So again, another example, this was an SPCA that we looked at. Their taxable payroll was just over $700,000. Their tax rate was 3.38%. So when you multiply those 2 together, you get $5,900 for their unemployment taxes. I think we did something backwards there. And the estimated taxes were $23,000 and the claims were $5,900 for an overpayment of $18,000. So where do we fit into this? A little bit about 501c services, and again, we'll send a copy of this presentation to you. So, but here's a couple of our recent testimonials from some of our members. And a little bit about 501. We were founded over 40 years ago by a retired UCP executive. His name is John Huckstead, and he came from a nonprofit background. He was maybe in the same position that you are right now as you're attending this webinar, but he was really looking at the most cost-effective way to manage his unemployment for the UCP. He started talking to other colleagues in the San Jose area, and nobody was really taking advantage of reimbursing at the time. So he put together the first of its kind grantor trust. At the time was called Joint Unemployment Compensation Trust. We started with about 25 nonprofits back then. Now we're helping over 3,000 nonprofits, and we've through the evolution over the 40 years have gone from the Joint Unemployment Compensation Trust to 501c services, as well as 501c agencies trust. And managing unemployment is really our primary service. So you can really expect to have working with us people that know not the most exciting happy hour conversations when it comes to the knowledge that we all have up here, but we definitely can answer any unemployment related questions you have during the workday. And here's just a quick snapshot of the, again, like I said, we work with about 400 nonprofits right now here in California, and here's just a quick snapshot of some of them. And how do we help? Well, first, all of our members receive unemployment claims management. This includes an online tool that is very intuitive, very easy to use. So if you're in a position that you only have a claim every few months, well, this is great because it's very helpful. It helps you, go through all the steps, make sure that you are compliant with all claims, and make sure that nothing slips through the cracks. If you're someone that manages a whole lot of claims each month, again, this is super helpful because it's an easy tool to use. Along with our claims management, we do audit each claim on your behalf. Each year that brings back in the ballpark of $1 to $2 million to our members through those audits alone. And then we also provide unlimited access to hearing reps. So if you do let someone go for cause and they file for unemployment, we can help you manage the claim from even when you terminate the person. We can help you make sure that the paperwork is in line. And then all the way through the protest of the claim. And we have a pretty significant win rate. I think we're about 85% here in California on the win rate for that. And as an extra support to the HR people who use our services, we have HR services, which is really 3 components. It includes unlimited access to HR consultation. We have a small team here, so if you do have questions, you're likely to get the same person. If not, you can ask to speak to the same person if they're familiar with your case. So it's a very hands-on, we like to call white glove service with our HR services. So it's HR consultation. We do a number of trainings each year, so webinars just like this, you can log in. Many of those also do come with Shroom as well as HRCI units. And then we also have a knowledge library as part of our HR services. So, it might be late at night, you happen to be working, you want to look up a job description or something like that. We have a number of samples and resources available for you in our knowledge library. And this is something I really like, and I know a lot of organizations I talk to out there love having this option available, and that is reemployment packages. So if you think back to the beginning of my presentation when we talk about weekly benefit amount, $450, we like to cut that, get someone off of unemployment as fast as possible. So if you do find yourself laying off an employee, you can offer them reemployment packages. You just reach out to us. We provide you all the information The packages come with coaching, a number of, resume building, interview techniques, personality assessment. Maybe we can help them find a job that more aligns with their personality. So a number of services to help them find a job faster. And again, this is included with our services. So you provide the package, maybe they get a job 4 weeks faster. So you've just saved, what is that, $1,800 for your organization by providing this reemployment package. We also provide protection. All of our members have the option of taking stop loss protection, which is an insurance for catastrophic claims. I know personally when I was with the YMCA, we had to close down a preschool, which ended up laying off a number of employees. And so what this protection is for, it's for reimbursing employers who find, organizations go through transition. So if you find your organization in a time with a catastrophic claim, like closing down a whole program, there is protection for you through our services. And then finally, savings. And this is more for the small highs and lows of unemployment, the small ebbs and flows. Some years you might, go through a couple of years where your average claims are 5,000, then you hit 20,000. Our program is set up so that you put, years that your claims are a little bit less, you put money into your savings so that the year that the claims are higher, the savings are there. So it's kind of savings 101, but it's really an opportunity for your finance department. When you come to budget each year, you know exactly what you're paying for unemployment. If you don't hit that number, it goes into your savings and it's there for future use. So I hope I've piqued your interest here. And like I said, Janessa is going to be following up with everyone with the, or I might be also following up with many of you, but we'll be following up with the shroom credits as well as a recording of this session. If you are interested in learning more and you are able to locate your tax rate notice, that would be super helpful. And we also like to get your payroll from the last 4 quarters. So if you're able to get those, that would be wonderful. And questions, let's see if we have any questions. It's always a little harder with the chat, but we're also very, very happy to answer any questions that might come up, or any questions offline. So that is all I have for today. Again, we will be following up with you. Thank you all for joining us. I hope you all enjoyed your lunch. Hope you were able to use that credit, that Uber credit, and hopefully maybe our paths will cross. Hopefully we'll meet either face-to-face on a Zoom or maybe even in your office someday. So thank you all.